And the sons of Israel journeyed from Ramesses to Succoth, about 600,000 on foot that were men, besides children. And a mixed multitude went up also with them, and flocks and herds, even very much cattle. Now right there, this is what we got to start thinking about. Okay, this is the point in Israel's history when they're being freed from Egyptian bondage. But when Israel is free, guess what? Israel did not leave alone. So you have Israel, listen to the wording of it. He says, verse 37 again, about 600,000 on foot that were men. Now he specified there were almost, there were just over 500,000 men that were Israelites. He said, besides the children. But then it goes on to say, and a mixed multitude. Now let's look up the word mixed. Now that comes from number 6154. Okay. Now the word is Arab. Arab. Now this is what it means. It's derived from another term, of course, but we're just going to focus on this word here. The word is derived from, if you want to look it up, number 6148. It says, the way. Now, if you do a reference on this word and you see the different uses, what you're going to find is that it's also used in connection to some type of fabric.
Strong's H 6154. Arab.
Mixed people. Mixed people. Or mongrel race. Or mongrel race.
This white man got to go down with violence. With violence, he must go down, okay? Ain't gonna be no velvet revolution. Think he gonna go down without violence, without rape, robbery, and murder? Okay? Are so you this crazy? Revolution is gonna have blood. There will be blood in this revolution. There will be blood in this insurrection to take this goddamn devil down and this coup d'etat, all right?
Alright, first and foremost, I'd like to give all praises, honor, and glory to the warrior union called Jesus Christ. We are Sicarii 1715.
Gorilla Hebrews!
My name is Ahla Van Lawa.
We pulling triggers!
Get down and lay down, niggas.
Blow the fucking trumpet!
Sicarii 1715. We some Hollywood hustling fake faggot nigga-likes.
Tiger die!
I hate the fact that I came out of KB's Coochie Cunt Academy.
Fucking Mamzers will let your nuts hang.
Swang, swang. I look like the crossbreeding between a Mamzer crack baby and Steph fucking Curry.
Somebody get me a shovel.
The white man is a goddamn devil.
That's right.
Get out of here, cracker lover.
Coon.
You ain't know.
At ease.
I'm a Saudi Arabian Mamzer sweet booty sodomite. The white man is the goddamn devil.
Come.
Shut up, little nigga. I'm talking. Did you just vote for Trump?
Uh-oh.
idiot. Point blank, period. My mama sells pussy for food stamps and Walmart gift cards.
What else, son?
I hope the white bitch overdoses on painkillers and chokes to death on her fucking tongue.
Die, bitch.
Give me the fucking loot.
Elazar, you a fucking Asian bitch.
Fuck my mama.
Right now, that's what the number's 151. See, we gotta go precept upon precept, but like I said, let's play the Old Testament game. I can do it all day through the Spirit because this is, you know, my center, all right, my core, so to speak. Right, read on.
Numbers chapter 1, verse 51. And when the tabernacle set it forth.
Go ahead.
And when the tabernacle set it forth,
read
the
on.
Levites shall take it down.
Right, read on the Levites. Right, read.
And when the tabernacle is pitched.
And this is going to prove that Zion Lex is not a Levite like he claims to be. Okay, he calls himself Avdiel ben Levi. All right, you're not no Levite because let's see what the Levites do. Read.
And when the tabernacle is to be pitched, the Levites shall set it up.
Read on.
And the stranger that cometh nigh.
The stranger that come near that tabernacle, what do a Levite do? Read.
Shall be put to death.
And when the tabernacle setteth forward, the Levites shall take it down. And when the tabernacle is to be pitched, the Levites shall set it up, and the stranger that cometh nigh shall be put to death. Zar. Zar.
The stranger that come near that tabernacle, what do a Levite do? Read.
Shall be put to death.
Shall be put to death. He shall kill any stranger that comes near our place of worship.
A son of an Israelite woman, and he was a son of an Egyptian man, went out in the midst of the sons of Israel, in the camp. The son of the Israelite woman and a certain Israelite man struggled with each other, and the son of the Israelite woman pronounced the name and cursed. And they brought him into Moses, and the name of his mother was Shelomith, daughter of Dibri, who belonged to the tribe of Dan. And they put him in the guardhouse until the will of the Lord came distinctly to them. And it spoke to Moses, saying, Bring the one who cursed outside of the camp. And all who heard lay their hands upon his head, and the entire congregation will stone him. And to the sons of Israel you will say, Whoever curses his God, he will bear his sin. And the one cursing the name of it certainly will be put to death, and the entire congregation will stone him, whether he be a stranger or a native. If he pronounces the name he will be put to death. And Moses spoke to the sons of Israel, and they brought the one cursing outside of the camp and they pelted him with stones. And the sons of Israel did just as it was commanded to Moses. Two Issues of interpretation. 2.1 The mestizo and his relation to the community. The beginning of the story reports the only actions taken by the mestizo in the whole narrative. In V10, it is Uyudza. He came out, but it is not immediately clear where he came from and where he went, mainly due to the ambiguity of in, at, bit, rivach, midst, inside with the preposition tuch. It is a combination of betuch. The latter might indicate motion, into or location, among. In other words, he could enter the Israelite camp, perhaps because as a mestizo he was not permitted to live there, or simply step out of his personal dwelling within this camp into the common area. For example, according to John Hartley, he came out of his dwelling into the camp of the Israelites, presupposing that the mestizo lived separately from the Israelites' encampment of pure-blooded Israelites, means that he entered the encampment and thus violated an explicit or implicit boundary. The issue of boundaries is also present in the story under consideration. The twofold description of the main character as a mestizo who is in the midst of the sons of Israel sets him apart. He does not belong to the sons, and his being among them causes problems because of his association with potential pollution and loss of power. He is someone who does not have allegiance or attachment to the group. This, in turn, raises the possibility that what followed as entering the camp was not just a random brawl. It may not be accidental that the text is meticulously specific about the ethnic identities of the two men. The newcomer is labeled as the son of an Egyptian man and thus juxtaposed with the sons of Israel into whose midst he arrives. V10a. His opponent is just an Israelite man. V10b. There is no mention of either his father or mother, presupposing that he did not stand out in any way from among the male inhabitants of the camp. This configuration suggests that the eruption of violence had to do with the community's rejection of the mestizo and the concomitant resentment over his presence within the community's boundaries. The relatively rare verb uyanitsu, used to describe what happened, points in the same direction. Such occurrences as Exod 2:13, 21:22, 2 Sam 14:6, 2 KGS 19:25 equals Isa 37 hours and 26 minutes indicate that the fight went far beyond mere pushing and shoving. It was bitter and possibly to the death. Therefore, from the beginning of the story, we have an undertone dynamic that hinges on who belongs to the community and who does not. Neither the mestizo nor his opponent have names. They are, respectively, the paradigmatic outsider and insider. In general terms, we may say that the outsider may be recognized by skin color, contours of face, accent when speaking, and family of origin. It is the latter factor that powerfully comes into play in the story under discussion. This introduction to the narrative, as we shall see, goes a long way in complicating the interpretation of the fight's violent consequences for the mestizo. The blasphemy. The possible roots of the verbal form uyakav in 2411 are nikav and kviv. The primary meaning of the first is pierce, bore through. The second, curse, utter a curse against. 14 The story of Balaam in Numbers 23-24 uses kviv, as do Job 3, 8, 5, 3 and Prov 11:24. The only occurrences of the root outside of the Pentateuch. All these convey the plain idea of cursing. As to the first option, the verb nikav is used in Gen 30 hours, and 28 minutes and Num 117 in the sense of to name, pronounce, or stipulate, in and of itself. The verse is ambiguous as to which root it uses. Either the mestizo uttered a curse against the divine name or pronounced it. Admittedly, the much more determinate verb at the end of Left 24:11 does suggest that in the case of the mestizo some cursing did take place. The mestizo pronounced the divine name in a blasphemous way. It was exceedingly intolerable for a mestizo, an outsider, to use it in the middle of a brawl. This leaves us with only two possibilities. One is that the mestizo pronounced the divine name, perhaps even cursed it or used it to curse the community. It is also conceivable that the mestizo simply did not know that it was inappropriate to blaspheme the name of the Israelite deity, especially in conjunction with a curse, much less that it is a capital offense. There is no indication that he was a worshipper of it, and if he was a devotee of a different god or goddess, the rules that he was used to following could also be different, even if he shared the beliefs of full-blooded children of Israel. As an outsider who probably lived outside the camp, he could hardly receive proper instruction in all the niceties of religious practice, especially given that at this juncture in Israelite history this practice was itself in flux, with the deity continuously issuing new stipulations. Nothing illustrates this better than Left 24:12. While the community apparently has no doubt that the mestizo's words should not go unpunished, even its leader, Moses, cannot figure out the appropriate penalty without consulting it. Up to this moment, it is mostly the mestizo who acts, coming out, brawling, together with the full-blooded Israelite, and uttering words. In verse 11a, he is for the first time acted upon, namely, brought to Moses. This will remain the case in the rest of the story. The mestizo will be placed under guard. V12, condemned by it to death. VV 13-16, and stoned by the entire community. V23, with verse 11b in the background. The outsider, but probably not the insider, might ask, where is the mestizo's mother, Shelomit, in this entire ordeal? Her state is liminal. As a full-blooded Israelite, she is included in the divine command to participate in the execution of the mestizo. The story does not mention if he was her only child, but even if he was not, the dilemma she had to face must have been excruciating. By participating in the stoning, she would take the life of her own son, and by refusing, she would not only jeopardize her status, and maybe that of her immediate and even extended family, in the community, but also go against her own faith by disobeying the deity, which in turn may bring the divine wrath down on her, the family, and even the entire people. What happens to Shelomit's son is a remote consequence of her crossing the insider-outsider boundary by having a child with an Egyptian man. The divine speech. Finally, it is necessary to address a major interpretive problem lurking in Ibn's discourse that addresses the issue of pronouncing the divine name and the consequences of this act. Left 24:15-16. In verse 15b, the deity states that that the pronominal suffix of ele is problematic can be seen already in the Septuagint's decision to skip it. Whoever curses God will bear his sin. Modern interpreters often keep the suffix but capitalize his God. The construal solves the problem by assuming that must be the deity referred elsewhere in this story as the name. Further complicating the interpretation of the passage is the fact that Leviticus also uses the expression Elohu Elsewhere, chapters 2 and 4 employ it when addressing the problems of a ruler's sin, the circumstances of the high priest's pollution, and the physical characteristics the descendants of Aaron must possess in order to serve God. What makes Lev 24:15 different is the presence of the verb Kalil. This is the only occasion on which the two words appear together. Milgram suggests that in the story under discussion, the expression might 31 Kalil next to Yehu work as a euphemism to avoid the use of the divine name. Timothy Willis also makes a reference to this possibility. He agrees with Milgram that verse 15b has to be understood more narrowly than an injunction against someone cursing his God, namely, as a direct reference to cursing the Lord. Analyzing the text structure, Willis suggests that in verse 22b, both Yehav Elohaikim stands in chiastic parallel to Yod Kufla Leloayu. Milgram and Willis reject the possibility, raised by some traditional and modern interpreters, that Elohiu can also be interpreted as his gods. In other words, that according to it, the blasphemer of any god has to give account for his or her transgression to that deity. Hartley accepts this reading, but he does not consider the implications of it accepting the presence of other gods among the community. Instead, he argues, citing Judges 6, where Gideon destroys Baal's altar, that blasphemy against foreign gods was not considered a serious matter in ancient Israel. Leviticus calls upon the priests and the people to distinguish between the holy and the profane. Lev 10, 8-11. The book provides detailed instructions on how to worship God and ensure the purity of the people. The goal is to live holy lives in fellowship with the deity. The laws are the way to secure the well-being of the community, to retain the blessing of it. However, the story of the mestizo introduces a note of tension. It seems that a member of the community can be holy worshipping it when still having her own gods. The outsider pays a heavy price for pronouncing the name of it. This brings up the issue of justice. The mestizo who utters the divine name does not have a chance to explain himself, to apologize, or to promise never to do it again. He is executed without further ado. Yet, full-blooded Israelites who time and again worship other gods, including multiple instances in Exodus and Numbers, the books that flank Leviticus, and then in Judges and Kings, are invariably pardoned upon repentance and sometimes even without it, as seems to be the case in Judges 13. Even the ultimate misfortune that befalls the community at the end of Kings is exile rather than death. It thus reveals himself, perhaps inadvertently, as biased in a major way in favor of the insiders. To be sure, the deity does proclaim that both resident alien and citizen should be executed for blasphemy, Lev 24:16, but is it an accident that the only actual case of such an execution involves someone who is, in all likelihood, not a citizen? In this perspective, the mestizo is not a villain personifying oppression and idolatry. Rather, he is a victim of impossible demands that a closed community places upon the marginalized individuals who live on its fringes, and of severely biased attitude that the deity seems to share in the story towards such individuals. The case of a blasphemer in Lev 24:10-23 provides another situation wherein an offender was caught in flagrant delicto. Like Numbers 15:34, the accused was put in bond while they besought a ruling by YHWH's decision, v12. The ruling given, first with respect to the immediate case, v14, and then reformulated as a norm for Israelites and strangers, VV 15-16, was death by stoning. The reason why this case constitutes a novum requiring a divine resolution is not given. Several alternatives are defensible. First, the fact that the person who is accused of blaspheming the name, V11, that is YHWH. 256 is of mixed parentage must have raised the question as to whether the normative covenantal prohibition do not blaspheme Elohim nor curse a prince of your people, Exod 22:27, was applicable to the non-Israelite. 257. A second and not unrelated interpretation of this case arises from the fact that the hortatory injunction upon which the case is based, do not blaspheme Elohim, lacks any reference to a specific punishment. Accordingly, the key legal issue may well have been the mode of punishment, but even presuming that this latter was known, in the tradition, with respect to cases involving native Israelites, 258 the fact remains that it needed precise legal specification with respect to the non-Israelite stranger. Indeed, an indirect confirmation of this interpretation is provided by the restatement of the case in casuistic terms in Lev 24, 15-16. For the statement, if a person blasphemes his God, he will bear his sin, but if he blasphemes the name, YHWH, he will be put to death, indicates that a distinction could be drawn between the non-application of Israelite jurisprudence in cases where a non-native blasphemed his own God, and its legitimate application where such a one blasphemed the Israelite God, within areas of Israelite jurisdiction. The formulation in V16 thus states that in such cases where a non-Israelite blasphemes YHWH, he shall be stoned to death just like the native Israelite. The stranger is like the native. Thus, the law dealing with a person who blasphemes YHWH specifies that the same law pertains to the Israelite as to the non-Israelite stranger. Lev 24:16, and, as noted, it also notes that if a stranger blasphemes his own God, he simply has to bear his guilt. Israelite jurisprudence does not apply. Thus, the law dealing with a person who blasphemes YHWH specifies that the same law pertains to the Israelite as to the non-Israelite stranger. Lev 24:16, and, as noted, it also notes that if a stranger blasphemes his own God, he simply has to bear his guilt. Israelite jurisprudence does not apply. His fight takes place in the camp, which makes a theological difference. The transgression takes place within the confines of the Israelites' land. Granted, they have not yet taken possession of the promised land to come, but the camp embodies all of the theological significance of the land in Leviticus. The camp is the location in which the man blasphemes. The significance of this reference to the camp increases when one takes into account that it refers to the location in which this man went among the Israelites. V10. The phrase "among the Israelites" occurs once more in Leviticus, namely in Lev 22:32, where God commands that his name, Sem, should not be profaned, QLL, so that he may be sanctified among the Israelites. In this regard, it is perhaps noteworthy that the man of Lev 24:10-23 blasphemes in connection with the Lord's name in the camp, among the Israelites. Thus, it would seem that the underlying concern of verses 10-12, seen on the background of Lev 22:32, is that the sanctity of the Israelite community is threatened by this man blaspheming the Lord's name. Second, the two other references to the camp are made in relation to the removal of the blasphemer for execution outside the camp. CFV 14:23. God commands those who heard the man to remove him outside the camp. V14. And the narrator reports that these people took the man outside the camp and stoned him. V23. Elsewhere in Leviticus, when a person is removed outside the camp, it is symbolic of the death that results from divine judgment. The scapegoat of Leviticus 16. The man must bear the iniquity away from the people. accepting back the contagion that he had unleashed in the community. 49. Further support for this conclusion may be found in the prominence given to the Day of Atonement in the framing chapters Left 23 and 25. In Left 23 this is reflected by the solemnity of the warnings that accompany its prescription. 50. God will cut off KRT, V29, and destroy V30 from his people, anyone who does not observe this day's requirements.
Alright, first and foremost, I'd like to give all praise, honor, and glory to the world ignorantly called Jesus Christ, to the correct name of our holy Mashiach. My name is Alazar Badalawa. Let's start this off right. My name is Alazar Badalawa. Let's start this off right. I'm a street hustling, ghetto Baphomet, blood-sucking parasite.
That's right. What you staying strapped for?
I'm about to start killing in this fucking race war.
God. Break this up.
What's the problem, officer?
Raise your hands above your head and spread them.
But officer, I'm a white guy.
Can I understand why I'm being patted down before I get patted down? Why am I being handcuffed? Can I understand why I'm being handcuffed?
Babe, calm down. You're getting antsy. Calm down.